Julian Lennon is a Grammy-nominated singer-songwriter, photographer, documentary filmmaker, philanthropist, and rock and roll royalty as the son of the late music icon John Lennon. Now, Julian is adding a new title to his impressive artistic work, that of children's book author. His inspirational new children's book, titled Touch the Earth, asks its reader to go on a helping adventure to protect the planet, a cause he has championed in his music and award-winning documentaries in the past. Touch the Earth cleverly combines interactive storytelling with an educational and vitally important message that both children and parents will appreciate. And we're delighted to have Julian Lennon here with us on Metro Focus. It's so nice to meet you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
And I must tell you, I had the book, and I'm doing the navigation with it, and I'm hitting the buttons on it.
It's just old school that, I remember doing similar things when, it was nap time and bedtime, and my mum or my grandmother, you'd be cuddled in between her and we'd be reading the books together. And that was very much a time that I remember fondly because it was all about bonding and nurturing,
Right.
So the idea was to harken back to that, but, add the element, not that it hasn't been done before, but of a little bit of education, of letting the kids know, that there's things going on out there.
My sense, having looked at this, is you can't read this book without the child being on your lap.
Well, pretty much.
When you talk about nurturing, you
exactly
literally need them to have
exactly so.
You've been involved in so many different projects over the years, not only your music and your filmmaking and your philanthropy. So why then do you decide, I'm going to become a children's book author?
I actually met up with a dear friend of mine who's called Bart Davis, who's actually the co-writer of this book. And it was initially for a biography. And then he started looking at everything that I was doing. He said, have you ever thought about doing something for the kids? I said, well, I've done voiceovers for CDs for kids and a few, different projects here and there, but nothing directly from me as such. He said, well, why not think about that? And I went, you know what, you're right. If anybody needs to hear what's going on, it's the kids. So we embarked on this project about a year ago. Had to decide what the storyline was, and wanted it to look beautiful as well, because I think that was part and parcel of it. And
it's
and for
so
me,
lovely.
Yes, it was very important to find the right illustrator, and I think we did. I think for me the whole project has just been a blessing.
The book begins by taking the parents and the children on a helping journey.
Yes.
Yeah. And they're traveling on, and you can see it here. It's the White Feather Flyer.
Yes, that's correct.
Now, the White Feather also happens to be the name of your foundation.
Yes. And
I think where White Feather comes from is a fascinating and lovely story.
It's a pretty amazing story.
Yeah, tell me.
Quite unique. Dad, on the rare occasion that I did see him, mentioned once, and I thought this was very peculiar at the time, that, should something happen to him, if he passed, that the way that he would let me know that either, he was okay or that we were all going to be okay was going to be in the form of a white feather. Literally 20 years ago, I was on tour in Australia with one of my environmental songs, Saltwater, and I was at a hotel in Adelaide, and I had this phone call from the management, and they said, excuse me, Mr. Lennon, we've got a group of 30-plus people down in the lobby here with camera crews and an Aboriginal tribe. They want to see you. Can you come down? And I said, all right. And I walked out into the hotel lobby, and there was about 30 people or so, including the Mirning tribe, the Mirning people. And the elder of the tribe was this woman, and she literally walked up to me in the middle of this sort of semicircle of people with a white male swan's feather, which was about yay big, and literally handed it to me and said, you have a voice, can you help us? And as I've said before, it was either continue to be a rock and roller or step up to the plate. But I've got to tell you, the goosebumps.
Immediately, when she hands the feather, did you immediately think back to your dad's comment?
Of course. I said because that's never in any way, shape or form happened to me. You may see the odd white feather from a bird. And that, I always noticed that. But to be presented specifically with a white feather with a request to help a whole culture was a pretty big one. So I spent 10 years making a documentary about the Mirning people called Whale Dreamers. Mm-hmm. And I thought, you know, if the film does well in any way, shape, or form, I want to give the money back to the mining culture to keep their culture alive. And the only way at that point in time to legally do it that made any sense, so literally the money went straight to them, was to do it through a foundation. So the director of the film and I sat down and threw names about, and we came up with the White Feather Foundation.
And something about the notion of a white feather just works.
For me,
a plane taking you on this journey of discovery,
yes,
and helping.
To me, it harkens back to a dove, which is, you know, a representation of peace. Also, you know, a feather being something that we used to use for communication and writing. So that's how I look at it. Yeah, absolutely.
I am taking this today to my 20-month-old grandson.
I would like to sign it for him, if that's all right.
I'm going to put him on my lap, and we're going to take this helping journey.
I appreciate that.
Julian, it was a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And for more information on Julian Lennon's book, Touch the Earth, and the White Feather Foundation, please log on to metrofocus.org.